Hello and welcome back. Okay, so I am super excited for our next speaker. We have Keisha Howard from Sugar Gamers to talk to us about Sugar Gamers and inclusivity in esports. So thank you so much for being here, Keisha. How are you doing?
I am great. This is an awesome Sunday. Summer is about to arrive. All the good games are out. I have no complaints here.
Starbucks has a new tasty flavor of Frappuccino. I don't know if you guys tried it. It's strawberry funnel cake.
Ooh,
Yes,
okay.
yeah. So go out and get one. But Sugar Gamers, super excited. But first, I'm gonna give you a chance to introduce yourself because you're awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what did you do before Sugar Gamers?
Oh, wow. Well, I have been a lifelong gamer. I've been gaming since I was 9 or 10 years old. When my older brother got his first system, he got, the first Game Boy, the Super Nintendo, so on and so forth. So that was like sort of my gateway into gaming. So that's been 27 years. And I never knew that there were so many career opportunities in the video game industry until like I just kind of gave it a shot in 2009. So before 2009, I was actually in luxury high rise real estate development. So, like, if you ever wanted to understand, like, how do those huge buildings get built, that's what I used to do. But my heart has always been into speculative fiction, narrative design, video games. I love video games so much. And that's how Sugar Gamers was really born. During the last recession, real estate took a huge hit. And so it gave me the opportunity to experiment and create the community that we see today, which is the Sugar Gamers community.
That sounds awesome. What is your favorite game, by the way?
Oh man, I pretty much love any game that is an immersive sim.
Mm-hmm.
So immersive sims include Deus Ex, Hitman, and Dishonored. So I love all three of those games. I can't even. I would say maybe out of all of them, Deus Ex is probably my top. I have a hard time saying anything else is better than that game.
Got it. Got it. And that's just off script. I was just curious. But tell us about Sugar Gamers. How and why did you start it and what is it?
Sugar Gamers is a media company that is also a tech advocacy organization, and it also functions as a community. So, what we do is we highlight people that you don't normally see in video games. We highlight the video games that aren't normally talked about, and we connect people with different opportunities in the space by reframing how we talk about the space to begin with. We want to bring out the intellectual merits of gaming and not just the fun and the consumerism. Like there's plenty of that. Like we're all, trying to buy games, we're all trying to have fun. But it was really important to me to really sort of pinpoint what makes games so special and so important to our society. The other reason is I had never really seen women, let alone women of color, in the space. So when I was looking for a community of my own back in 2009, and you have to remember this was before Gamergate, this was before Black Lives Matter, this is before Me Too. I was looking for a community that I had like five criteria. Number one, it wasn't just competitive games. Number two, we'd meet in person. Number three, they'd be women. Number four, they'd be people of color. And basically just those sorts of social gaming dynamics. And there wasn't one that existed at the time. And so I created it not knowing how big it would get. So and now we like highlight, all sorts of people in the space. We give community to individuals that aren't gonna, that aren't super competitive, but love games and love different types of games. And it's a very inclusive community. It started off as like female only, but even that felt exclusionary. So it's open to everyone whose mission is to have inclusive and ethical environments around the video game industry.
That sounds amazing. And yeah, you said you sounded surprised that that it grew so big, but it's like you said, you were looking for a community that had women, had people of color, had folks who were interested in games other than competitive gaming. That all sounds very normal. There's tons of people out there. And yet when you're
Right.
looking for it, you're right. There was no community for people like that. So I'm not surprised at all that when you made that space, people came because those people already existed. They just didn't have a
Right.
space to come.
So I mean, it's something I'm very proud of. It's something that I just, it's a surprise adventure in my life, and now it's kind of my life's work. I can't imagine me not doing something that is related or connected to the foundation of what Sugar Gamers is.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you mentioned it has three parts. It's a media company, it's tech advocacy, and it's a community. So I want to hear more about each piece. So talk to us about how it's a media company. What does it do?
So, media, all that is, just the spread of information and sort of as we think of media, we think of like IGN or some of those bigger video game sites, and you see the videos and all the content that's created around video games. So we wanted to do that, but again, be the place where you would discover something that maybe you weren't even looking for to begin with. So instead of the top you know AAA titles, let's see what people are really sort of thinking about. Let's talk about some emerging technologies in the game space like VR and AR and what's going on with that. And just like sort of the inventiveness that can come with sort of highlighting individuals that aren't prominent yet. So that is the media part to share information. The tech advocacy part is
Sorry, I'm
that,
going to interrupt you for 1 second. Where can folks find you? So if they're
oh, yeah,
interested in that, can you tell us where they find that media?
yeah, it's just sugargamers.com. So,
Excellent. Excellent.
just check it out there.
Hmm.
Um, and so the next part, which is the tech advocacy,
Hmm.
is understanding. So I am from the south side of Chicago, and growing up, we have not a great public school system, and I would meet individuals that worked in gaming or worked in technology, and they would have access to information and access to opportunities that people from my demographic would never have access to. Like, one of the reasons why PC gaming wasn't even an option for me is because it's expensive, and I didn't really have anybody that would be able to teach me how to modify it. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to connect with. So there's a lot of options that I was unaware of or that I just didn't have because of my location and other factors, right? So
Yeah, lack
as
of access is a huge problem.
yeah,
Hmm.
so we all sort of are probably aware by this point that there was a already inherently in the industry a diversity and inclusion problem, but there are also some systemic issues that even sort of underlying those issues, which are which are interesting: social economics, location, how you're socialized. So, like, as for example, young women for the longest time, not until recently, weren't socialized to even like games. Games weren't weren't marketed toward young girls like they were marketed toward young boys. So you
Absolutely.
grow up thinking that the space isn't even for you, not even understanding that you've locked yourself out of it, not even like not knowing why that has occurred.
Hmm.
The lack of representation can affect those things too. So I wanted to build something where we can advocate for more types of individuals to be in the video game industry. That was really important. I mean, because like I don't want to be the only one. It's lonely, right? So I want to, continue sharing everything that I learned and everything that the community has like sort of gathered
Hmm.
with the community, and just not have that gatekeeping aspect that the video game industry used to have heavily. And like I said, things are better now, but
Well, we still have a
starting,
long way to go. We
yeah.
still have a long way to go, but we're lucky to have people like you paying it forward, and making it more inclusive. So tell us more about that advocacy piece in terms of how does it work? Like if folks are interested in helping out with that, do you recruit folks to be advocates to work with you, or do you
Try.
reach out to companies to help them, make their spaces more inclusive? Like how does the nitty gritty work?
Oh yeah, it's a lot of back and forth. It's a lot of push and pull because tech advocacy and outlying intellectual merits in video games is kind of not very capitalistic. So it's not like a product. I can't be like, hey, you want to help people? Like, how does that make money? How do I measure that in units? You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's been interesting like I said, the push and pull of it, because some of it is just grassroots efforts and
Hmm.
like intuition and my heart to actually help people. And the people that I'm helping don't always have the money to buy a new, headset, or to have all the sort of trappings of what you see prominent gamers have prevalently online. So I want to help those people, and you help those people by giving them knowledge for free. You have to educate them first before they even get into the space. So there's a lot of education. That component is missed on many people. People don't understand that I have to like sort of explain and teach what it is I do before I even get to any sort of the cool parts, right? Um, but yeah, it's difficult because people find me and I find people, but it's usually based on this idea of empathy, this idea of wanting to have an ethical and inclusive, more egalitarian sort of industry where people can grow and innovate. So like, it's people like I don't have a million followers, right? So but when people find me, they're so happy because there is a space for them that doesn't require them to have the trappings, that doesn't require them to check off boxes. It's like, come as you are. We actually are looking for people who have their own individual unique personalities, unique identities, to give us their take on how they play video games. And that's been very gratifying, even though there's not like a metric, right, of success for this. So the companies that work with me usually want to move toward more inclusivity, and that's been nice, especially in the last year or so. But yeah, that's how it works. But for a long time, I mean, people were just like, "Oh, Sugar Gamers is so cool," but it doesn't generate a lot of revenue because it's the foundation of it is about being good to people and not getting people's money. And I'm pretty sure there's a way to do both that is ethical in some way, but I haven't figured that out yet. um,
I totally hear you. It's so hard because, the bottom line, it's like, how do the bottom line is, like you said, being ethical, right? The bottom line is making everyone feel included. So how do you go to a company and say, like, I don't know how to make you care about people, right? Because that's my bottom line. But luckily, I will say there are quite a few metrics that help companies like yours along. Like, for example, when we talked to Marie Claire, she mentioned, that was yesterday, she mentioned, look, if you look at who plays games, women are already 50% of the demographic. Like 50% of gamers are already women. We just need to help bring them into the gaming spaces, the esports spaces. So you can go to a company and say, look, like the demographics are already there. You just need to be more inclusive to reach out to them, and then you can be making more money. And then the other thing that I always think about is that there's been a number of studies that prove time and again that any type of team, like management team, competition team, like you name it, like any group of people, if it is, diverse, racially diverse, gender diverse, sexual orientation, like the more diverse it is, the more successful that team is, because they bring so many more ideas, and brainstorming and perspectives, that team ends up being way more successful. So that's also a tool in your toolbox that you can pull out when you're talking to these companies.
I appreciate that, Maya. Seriously, like we're constantly looking at all of those things, and hopefully that'll be the next most important metric
Mm-hmm.
soon, because like right now, a lot of it, from my experience, is based off vanity metrics, which is great. I mean, there's more than enough space for all kinds of approaches to the video game industry. So I'm not looking at one and saying bad and looking at another and saying good. I'm just saying the space that I'm in, and to your third part, which is community,
Mm-hmm.
that is the most valuable thing in my opinion that I have, is people, human, like humanity first. Like, how can I just be a human centric individual as it pertains to navigating the game and tech industry? Because as we move deeper and deeper into it, we can see how some is, as much as it connects us, it can disconnect us in a as it pertains to some of our like sort of emotional and more human approaches to things. So, I think that gaming has examples of both sides of that, like how it can be just really great and create a really amazing community, or it can create really toxic communities. So, I mean, both are there, and it's just an interesting sort of look at it. But for me, my most like, for some people, it's like, oh man, I got to work with these big corporations. I got to work with this tech company or this game company. For me, it's like I got to work with this high school girl, or I got to work with, one of the first women who ever did X, Y, and Z. And it's like, wow. And I get to talk to them and be their friend, and, really understand their motivations and their influences, and like how they became to be in that space, or how they came to be in that space. So, those sorts of things are actually what informs me of how to move forward. So it's not the companies, it's the people. So it's like the bottom up approach instead of the top down.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, they're both are important, right? Because the bottom up is informing us what we need, but the top down is where the money comes from. So hopefully it helps us, create those communities that are more inclusive. So, but yeah, absolutely. Tell us more about your community aspect of it, and piece of Sugar Gamers. If people are interested in joining your community, how can they find you? I know you said you have the website, but are you also on Discord? Like,
Oh
what?
yeah, we're
How
doing
do people join you?
we're doing all of that, and I have to say I am admittedly a little bit introverted, so some of these processes are a little slow. But we're on all the things. We're on Twitch, we're on Discord, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the things. Um, we're always looking for people who kind of get where we're going and want to join. So it's it happens organically. Like, people will find us and like, hey, I want to be a part of this, and then they are. And a lot of people think that there's like some sort of super convoluted process, and really it isn't. It's just self motivation, and understanding what our branding really sort of entails. So if someone's looking for like, I want, stuff and things and money, Sugar Gamers might not be the community. But if they're looking for people and ideas and connection, then Sugar Gamers definitely is it. And you should communicate with us. You should contact us and let us know like how we can help you and how you want to be a part of the our community. And that's how it's worked, and that's how it's grown. It's very organic, and it's very diverse, not just from a gender, race and orientation standpoint, but just from a neurodiversity standpoint, a lived experience standpoint. Just there's so many things, like just accessibility. There's so many ways in which even I am challenged on some of the things I think about what diversity means. A lot of times our ideas of diversity are so narrow, but they're expansive. And what I love about the video game industry is that it's one of the most diverse consumer bases that there is. Like, you will find all types of gamers with all sorts of different identities and different ways that they play, and different things that they like about what they're playing. So you can find three different people that love Mario Kart, but they love it for three different reasons. And it's really fascinating in exciting in a lot of different ways. So either who, like, it's really organic, and it's really sort of this natural sort of process which we're trying to scale. And like, I'm like, oh man, it's like growing like a tree. Now I want to grow 1,000 trees. But essentially that's what it is. Like, even when I started, it was like, oh, I'm just gonna have a small club with like a few women, and we're gonna like play some games together. And now 2,000 people later, it's like, whoa, okay, like like we can do some amazing things. We even made our own game, which is a tabletop RPG, which we want to, navigate into the digital space, and that was helped and created by the Sugar Gamers community. So I want people to be able to come into Sugar Gamers and get experience as well, that they can use to go into the workforce and into the gaming industry. So I mean, there's so much there, and it's not easy. I mean, it's not hard to become to be a part of Sugar Gamers, but I think our biggest sort of challenge is people who are self motivated. I've been doing this for 12 years, and it's super interesting what some of my highs and lows are. And the thing that has kept me going is just my love of the space and the people. So, and if that's not like a motivator, then, this particular community flavoring might not be, for everyone. But it's for a lot of people, and I love the people who, sort of identify with where we're going and what we're trying to do.
I mean, it sounds amazing. So I'm there. I'm I'm all about it. So I was wondering, as you were, you talked about playing video games since you're a 9, but you also talked about how, girls aren't socialized to enjoy video games or really techie stuff, computer engineering, things like that. So for any either girls watching, or women who, or maybe parents, who are interested in switching careers or even just getting into gaming casually because they're like, hey, I'm looking for a new hobby. Do you have any advice on resources? Like, because you said education is a huge piece. Do you have any advice on resources that helped you either understand the environment, the esports environment, or you know maybe feel more welcome, or educate yourself about the industry? Just anything that really helped you feel like you could get into it.
Absolutely. Two things. One is kids, invite your parents to play games with you, and parents, play games with your kids. It's just like reading was like, when you were developing, and, when you have kids, you're supposed to read to your kids. And that was a very sort of enriching process for both sides. You get to see what, your kid might like. The kid gets to bond with the parent or the adult. And for me, my older brother, he used to read to me. He used to play video games with me. He's the one that, even though he received, because he was older. He was 7 years older than me, so he received all the gaming stuff. But he shared it with me, and he played with me. And play fundamentally is what makes this so important and so just enriching. So it's the idea of play, like play with each other. I know it sounds very simple and very rudimentary, but that is really the connective tissue. That's the glue. And then secondly, like this idea that communication is a one-way street. Like, I'm gonna post something and then everyone's gonna like it. Like, before I got to any sort of notoriety, I would just research all the people that I liked and send them messages. And I would say 50% of the time, which is a pretty high statistic, people would be not only appreciative, but very responsive and wanting to help. And if you just sort of go out into the world, like understanding, like, hey, I'm inspired by you, I'm learning from you, thank you. How is there anything that any advice you can give? Not necessarily with expectation, not with anything, but like the gratitude that someone shared an idea, even if you don't know them, to just give that, sort of piece of joy and appreciation to someone. It goes far. And I know it's not like a technical thing with the algorithms and stuff, but that's how
It's
I got
important.
started. You
It's
know,
important.
hmm?
Absolutely. I know I'm saying it's important. It doesn't have to be anything technical. This is why we have people like you on. You're the expert. You're giving us the tidbits that maybe people don't think about, because I think many folks will think about, okay, I'm going to go like and Google something or research it that way. But that's amazing advice to reach out to the people that you actually admire. And people are more accessible than ever now, because you can tweet at them, you can message them on Discord or Instagram or whatever. So it's not like you have to go through their publisher nowadays, and maybe they won't respond, but like you said, 50% is a really high response rate.
Yeah. So like, yeah, you will get rejection. Be prepared for that, but you will also get successes. And gamers in general should know how to lose, because when you lose, you get the skills that you need to succeed, and it's not really a loss if you keep going, right? If you don't never give
Absolutely.
up. So you know,
Absolutely. Well, Keisha, we're at the end of our time. Do you have any parting words of wisdom, or any? Well, everything you've said was inspirational, but if you have like an inspirational tidbit that we can put on our wall or anything, this is your chance.
I mean, for me, it's just stay curious and be kind. Really, I mean, keep learning. There's always something new, or there's always a new angle to reframe how we're in the video game industry. Right now, esports is like the provocative and exciting conversation, but it's a sliver of what the video game industry really has to offer.
Absolutely, absolutely, I agree. Well, Keisha, thank you so much for coming in, for talking to us. And Sugar Gamer sounds amazing. Everybody should go check it out. And yeah, we really appreciate you having here with us. Thanks so much.
Follow us on Instagram at Sugar Gamers.
That's very important. It's important to know where we can find you. But thank you so much, and we will be back after a short break with our next speaker.
Thank you.